Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a deeply important, highly sensitive, and frankly, staggering topic. We are breaking down the details of a massive, nationwide Department of Justice operation that just wrapped up. We're going to look at the data, the geography, and the sheer scale of this coordinated enforcement action. Okay, let's jump right into the facts.
More than 200. Now, that is not a statistic spanning a whole decade. That represents the number of child victims rescued in just one single month. When you try to wrap your head around the scope of child exploitation in this country, a number like that, it really snaps the reality into sharp, immediate focus.
And right alongside those incredible rescues, we've got the second half of this breaking news. Over 350 child sexual abuse offenders were arrested. We're talking about a rapid, massive sweep that literally disrupted active criminal networks all across the nation.
So let's get into the specifics of Operation Iron Pursuit.
This massive effort ran throughout April, which was specifically timed to coincide with National Child Abuse Prevention Month. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche really set a zero-tolerance tone right from the top. He stated, "This operation puts every child predator on notice. We are coming for you. The sexual exploitation of minors is an abomination with no place in our society. And to actually pull something of this magnitude off, it required all 56 FBI field offices and U.S. attorneys' offices working in absolute lockstep across the entire country."
FBI Director Kash Patel echoed that exact sentiment, emphasizing a relentless 24/7 commitment. His message was clear: let this be a message to criminal actors who seek to target America's children. You will be pursued and you will be brought to justice. And just to give you some context on the scale of their work, last year alone, the FBI and its partners had a record year, identifying and rescuing over 6,300 missing children. Operation Iron Pursuit is basically the latest, highly focused chapter in that immense undertaking.
Let's shift gears and look inside the arrests themselves.
These takedowns spanned the entire country and exposed a really dark, varied landscape of crime. In Columbus, Ohio, for example, a man pleaded guilty to cyberstalking and actually creating AI-generated obscene material involving adults and children. It really shows how technology is changing the game here. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., there was an arrest for producing child pornography. Up in New York, a man faces allegations of child sexual exploitation. And over in Pennsylvania, yet an individual who is already a former felon, by the way, charged with child exploitation and illegal gun possession. So what's the big takeaway? These are incredibly complex, highly dangerous operations dealing with a huge array of criminal behaviors.
Now let's break down the timeline of one incredibly complex rescue.
To really humanize these massive numbers, we need to look at the harrowing journey of just one 10-year-old child from Utah. It started with the child being kidnapped under the guise of what was supposed to be a normal camping trip. But instead of a campground, the route went international. The child was transported up into Canada, then moved all the way down through Mexico, and finally tracked to Cuba, where they were successfully rescued and flown back to their biological mother. It's a perfect illustration of just how complicated, border-crossing, and resource-intensive these rescues actually become.
Now, according to the Justice Department's public statements on this specific Utah case, the child was transported amid concerns about potential gender reassignment surgery. Because of the intense, unimaginable trauma associated with a case like this, the FBI Victim Services Division stepped in immediately upon recovery to provide specialized crisis support. It really highlights that the job doesn't just end with the physical rescue, The immediate aftermath and the psychological support are absolutely crucial to the whole process.
So, how does this all fit into the ongoing fight?
Well, Operation Iron Pursuit didn't just happen in a vacuum. It falls directly under Project Safe Childhood. This is a long-standing national effort launched way back in 2006. Its entire mandate is to counter child sexual exploitation and completely disrupt the networks that prey on minors, whether they're operating online or offline. This recent operation is basically the latest, highly coordinated strike under this nearly two-decade-old program. And the sheer scale of this crisis becomes totally undeniable when we look at the sequence of recent back-to-back operations. Just track this with me. In May 2025, Operation Restore Justice recovered 115 children. Fast forward to August 2025, Operation Enduring Justice found 133. Then, in December 2025, Operation Relentless Justice rescued 205. And now, Operation Iron Pursuit in April 2026 brings in over 200 more. Seeing it laid out like that really proves the relentless, escalating nature of the crisis and the immense consecutive resources being deployed to fight it. Now, to match that escalating threat, the enforcement net is clearly widening. Arrests have been steadily climbing right alongside those rescues. They jumped from 205 arrests up to 234, climbing again to 293, and peaking most recently with over 350 arrests in Operation Iron Pursuit. That is a very aggressive, steady increase in apprehensions over just the last year. The network of predators is vast, for sure, but the enforcement catching these offenders is clearly growing wider and much more effective.
Which brings us to the core takeaway of this explainer. We've seen the staggering numbers, the complex international rescues, and the relentless data coming out of Project Safe Childhood. But as we look toward the future, we really have to ask ourselves, as these predator networks continue to evolve, leveraging crazy new technologies like AI and coordinating across global borders, what is it actually going to take to permanently dismantle them in the years to come? It's a complex, ongoing battle, and one that absolutely requires our continuous attention. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this critical information today.